in making a movie, in documenting the movement itself, I think is part of one of the strengths of this movement. And it's a formal element of the telling of the story that may not be obvious from the content, where we are struck by the fact that we're watching this woman die. Let's think also about the person who risked their life to walk towards the dying person and get the close-up that moves us so much. Immediately, the tomb of Neda became a shrine. So flowers were placed on it. People came to it. It became a site of symbolic resistance to the regime. And the traditional 40th mourning ceremony for Neda also became a political issue. This idea of the Chalomin ceremony, the 40th day ceremony, or Arba'in ceremony, using the Arabic term, is a reference back to the events of 1978, the revolutionary movement that used precisely these kinds of 40th day mourning ceremonies to jumpstart the movement in early 1978. During that period, at a protest, someone would get killed, and then 40 days later, at the mourning ceremonies, there would be demonstrations. Inevitably, somebody else would get shot and killed. 40 days later, there would be another protest. This occurred all the way up till June 1978, when Khomeini's followers decided to put an end to this cycle. They felt it was too dangerous. They didn't want to lose more people. They felt it might escalate out of control, and they said no more public demonstrations on the 40th mourning day for the martyrs of the previous demonstration. So we think of this cycle as having ballooned into a full-blown revolution, but in fact, the revolutionary movement itself put an end to that cycle 6 months before the revolution succeeded in forcing out the Shah. It was then resuscitated and revived last summer in use against the Islamic Republic this time. So Mousavi, the website, and these various green websites say we need to have some sort of political observance of the 40th day of Neda's murder. And sure enough, hundreds of people, perhaps thousands, showed up around her grave in a sign of political solidarity with the opposition movement. Mousavi himself allegedly drove past and joined them for a moment. Using this ritual, this element of the official culture and the official history of the revolution against the revolution. Other elements, the official legitimacy of the state, the money that is, that has all of the iconography of the Islamic Republic. People took stamps and put on the put a pro-reform slogan on the money. It says, Ya Hussein, Mir Hussein. Itself, Ya Hussein, is a reference to Hussein, right? One of the martyrs of Shia Islamic history. Mir Hussein is the first name of Mousavi, first names. So Ya Hussein, Mir Hussein, associating Mousavi then with early Shia history. Again, another form of cultural Jiu-Jitsu and an attack on the legitimacy of these official symbols on the money itself. Another public symbol of the revolution has been identification with the people of Palestine. And the Green Movement says, let's take the Quds Day, Jerusalem Day, and use this official ceremony as a venue for oppositional protest. Here the phrase Jiu-Jitsu itself is highlighted in one of the articles leading up to that event. The article says, let's use, specifically, let's take these techniques of Jiu-Jitsu and use and co-opt this event. There's also then a famous cartoon, Naji al-Ali, a famous Palestinian cartoonist, who is dressed up here. His signature character is dressed up in a reformist green scarf, identifying not the regime with Palestinians, but the opposition movement with Palestinians. Ashura, this famous and large-scale Shia ritual that was one of the major events of the revolution in 1978. The Green Movement says we're going to co-opt this event. The slogan here is, we'll turn Ashura green this year. Well, this year's Ashura, we're going to make it green. Associating it with the Green Movement, obviously. And similarly, with the events yesterday. Here's a snapshot from one of the movie trailers, if you will, movie-style trailer advertising yesterday's protests. There were a series of these videos that were posted on various sites that use Hollywood-style movie trailer techniques in order to advertise the upcoming protests. I think an interesting cultural mashup. And this one went through a variety of days on the calendar since last June. And the day Beast of Bahman, that is February 11th, the anniversary of the revolution. And in green in the middle, it says, Poyana Dictatori, the end of dictatorship. A reference, of course, to the revolution having succeeded on February 11th, 1979, and also, in part because it's green, a reference to the revolution that they hoped would occur yesterday. Now, the hopes for yesterday were somewhat overheated. This is the showdown. This is going to be the day of reckoning. Well, I like the phrase of the sandpaper revolution because this is an ongoing, itchy kind of movement. It doesn't seem as though there's going to be a particular day of reckoning that we're going to be able to anticipate in any kind of clear way like that. It's ongoing, but it's not clear yet whether it's really attacked, managed to abrade the structures of power, the oil income, for example, or the loyalty of the armed forces or the paramilitaries, or any of the economic institutions that help the system to continue to operate. There have been challenges, certainly, and it's unclear which direction these things are going to go. But in conclusion, I'd like to point out that the pro-regime forces themselves are organized along popular lines. This is a campaign rally from last year in favor of Ahmadinejad, and you see the woman on the right there of those three women looks sort of like the constituency for Ahmadinejad that we would expect. An older, probably religiously conservative woman, and she is shouting some slogan, but she's also got all sorts of modern campaign gear on, and she's joined by these two other women, which shows that young women with makeup and nose jobs also can support Ahmadinejad. They're not all in the opposition. There is a considerable segment of the Iranian population that favors the current regime. And let's not forget that we don't really know the percentages and how they break down. We don't really know whether Mousavi in a free and fair election would have or would now win by a large majority if elections were truly free and fair. In fact, we have some evidence suggesting that the Green Movement may control maybe a third to a half of people's sympathies. That's probably enough to make a revolution. It doesn't take an absolute majority to make a regime change. However, the point of the claim that all of Iran is opposed to Ahmadinejad, or everybody but the handful of reprobates or something, is probably inaccurate. This is a deeply divided society. There are major divisions, and there's popular mobilization is possible on all sides. Let me show you two surveys, because being from a sociology department, you know, numbers, we have a certain elective affinity. This is from a Toronto newspaper telephone survey of Iran. You may say, well, who could believe a survey in Iran done after the election under, you know, a period of intense repression, where somebody calls you and asks you over the phone a bunch of really potentially problematic questions about your politics. what I want to point out is that when you break this out by